Welcome to Ordinary Teachers and Students, where we get to hear teachers and students tell us their extraordinary stories. My hope is that through this podcast, ordinary teachers from around the world can relate to the stories they hear and get some timely suggestions and ideas. My name is Alan Cheng, and I'm a secondary school teacher in the UK, a life coach, and a former university lecturer. My mission is to make the education system a better place for all. Today, I'm delighted to invite Arthur Lam onto our podcast. Arthur is a current Year 3 Bachelor in Mathematics education student at a university in Hong Kong. I taught him during his first year of university, and we also collaborated on a sharing for the maths department last year. So I'm very excited to catch up with Arthur today. Let's welcome Arthur. Hi, Arthur.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. And while I was preparing for this podcast interview, I reviewed my report cards from secondary school. So it was nice.
So you
Yeah, it
did your
was
homework.
really nice to look back into the comments, what my teachers say about me. Retrospectively speaking, really nostalgic. Yeah, so I'm really happy.
Good to know that. So obviously from the intro, we just know that you're a maths student currently training to become a maths teacher. Anything else you want our audience to know about you?
I think maybe we can say something about how we met.
Mm,
Interestingly, in my first semester in
mm.
university, I was taught by Dr. Chang, and to be honest, I wasn't really particularly attentive in terms of the
Mm-mm.
particular grade. I'm not sure if you remember,
I
but I'm
remember
really
you had a
glad.
reason for being absent. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was quite a turbulent period of my
Mm,
life. It
mm,
is very difficult to catch up with the mathematics in university. So I'm
mm,
really glad that Dr. Chang can, see that I have some
mm,
sort of reason to be not attending to the
mm,
classes, but
mm,
not
mm,
completely skipping all the lectures. So I'm really happy that we can
mm-hmm.
do this podcast interview today.
Yeah, absolutely. I also remember you told me that you had your own little radio show, didn't you?
Actually, it wasn't my little radio show. I was
Okay.
invited to do also a podcast interview in RTH.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. So you're an experienced guest on podcasts, right?
No, 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 no. Don't say that because I'm still very nervous.
Well, it's very normal to be nervous, as I tell all my guests.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to tell me a bit more about your school life then? So we can start with primary or secondary, depending on where you want to go.
Yeah, sure. So my primary school was actually very competitive.
Mm,
As my primary school is divided into the mainstream section as
okay.
well as the international section, and I was enrolled in the international section.
Mm,
In the international section, a lot of really talented classmates were there. So
mm,
it was a pretty competitive environment. And once I got into a secondary school, a completely different school, it was a lot more easier for me in
oh,
terms of academics. Yeah,
mm,
so definitely helped with boosting my confidence.
yeah.
And I had a lot of room to explore a lot of different things throughout
Mm,
my studies in secondary school, which are not related to academics. Yeah.
yeah. That's really interesting. Actually, I've taught quite a few students where they had a really intensive primary school life. And then when they came to secondary school, they're like, oh, wait, it's actually easier than my primary school. It seemed like you kind of had that experience too, right?
Yes, it's so easy in the beginning of my secondary school. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe because my primary school was pretty prestigious
yeah.
and everything was so difficult. And also I had to speak in English or
Yeah.
Putonghua in my
Oh,
primary school.
right.
I can't speak
Yeah.
in Cantonese.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Do you
So
think that helped
it
you with
was
your language development?
Yes, I think it did. It did help
Mm.
me a lot. At least I won't be very scared to speak in English. Of
Mm,
course, I'm
mm,
still a
mm.
little bit scared when I need to speak in English like this.
You're doing very
I
well so far, really. Yeah.
really. But then, yeah, I think I'm quite familiarized with speaking in English, especially
Yep.
talking to speakers. So
Hmm.
compared with my secondary schoolmates, I think I'm more adapted to speaking in English.
And just now you mentioned that in secondary school, so obviously you had a chance to take part in some extracurricular activities. Do you want to tell us a bit more about those?
Yeah, sure. So actually, leadership is a big part of my secondary school life.
Mm,
I served as the chairperson of my students' union when I was
right.
Form 4. the
In
vice
Form 4
president.
already?
Yes, Form 4. I was
How
pretty
did you be the
young.
chairperson in Form 4? Aren't you normally like kind of the minor roles in Form 4 and then you become maybe chairperson in Form 5?
Yes, and that is a very interesting part because
Yeah.
usually the Form 5 students will take up the chairperson role.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And yeah, actually I lost in Form 3, so I
Oh, right.
began in Form 4.
Mm, mm.
Apparently, the Form 5 in my cabinet, they were not available to take up the chairperson role, so it landed upon they had other
Okay.
roles. They had to be
Yep.
like the head in prefect, so they can't be the chairperson as well.
Sure. So you took part in the student union. Anything else that you did that was particularly meaningful for you in terms of outside of the classroom?
I think the most meaningful would be being the chairperson of the students'
Yeah,
union.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was also the vice president of Maths Club, so I had a little
Mm,
bit of exposure
mm,
into what activities I can, initiate
mm,
in terms of maths, as well as
mm,
class associations. I was literally the chairperson
mm,
of every year's class association.
So I guess your classmates really looked up to you maybe as a leader, right? So you probably have that like you give that off that feeling that of being a leader or someone who would be like kind of responsible or would it normally be teachers choosing you or is it your classmates voting for you for class
Um,
association?
I think it's both. Sometimes
Okay.
because usually I don't take up these responsibilities or roles like on my own. Usually
Mm.
just nominate me and then the classmates will vote.
Yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
actually kind of shy usually, so I don't take
mm.
up roles on my own. Yeah.
Yeah, so generally like seems like you had quite a fruitful secondary school life, right? How would you describe it? Like if you just give me a few words to describe it, how would you just describe it then?
Um, I would say um I would say fruitful too, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I've really grown a lot from these experiences and learned how to become a successful leader because
Mm.
I think I wasn't really a good leader back then in
Okay,
some parts.
okay.
Let's
Mm.
say for the chairperson of Students' Union, I can be a bit too outspoken,
Mm.
especially in
Mm.
terms of like controversial issues. I can be pretty outspoken, and
Right,
that
right.
will spark a lot of debate. So maybe I wasn't a really good chairperson, can
Yeah,
be
yeah.
better.
I'm just curious, like I don't know if you still remember, but like when you think about yourself as a leader back then, who do you think you modeled your leadership style on? Like, for example, was it a particular parent or was it a person you knew or maybe possibly a teacher or anyone really? Like, was there someone you modeled your style on?
I don't think there is a particular person, to be
Mm,
honest. I
mm,
think since when I was very young, I like to take up leadership roles. I think it's something
mm.
that is born in me. So I
Mm.
sort of like, yeah, do it very naturally.
Okay, sure. And I am curious, of course, because you are now studying for maths and you would like to become a maths teacher. In fact, I was thinking just before this podcast recording, I think you're the first student who is training to become a te maths teacher that I've spoken to on the podcast because I've spoken to a few quite experienced maths teachers already. But I think you're the first student, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I might go back and check that. But yeah, where did your interest for maths start?
Oh, that is a very interesting question because, to be honest, I usually excelled in a lot of different subjects,
Okay.
except for math.
Oh,
Except
that is
for math.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, I got first in grade for like Chinese, English,
Mm.
and economics, but not maths. Because there
Mm.
is always someone who is better than you in maths, at least in my grade. Always someone who is better than you.
Okay.
And I find it very challenging, and I like challenging stuff. So maybe
Mm.
that's
Mm.
why I like maths.
Mm.
Compared
Mm.
to language, I like language a lot.
Yeah.
I really like to write or express myself in
Mm.
Chinese or in English. I like to read a lot of literature stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think maths is more challenging in terms of how I, have to progress the logic. behind
Right, right,
maths.
right, right, right.
Maths is
Sure.
like a language, to be honest. It's like a language, and it can
Well,
be
to
very,
mathematicians, I guess that's how you see it, right?
yeah, yeah, it's a language, very complicated.
To us lay people, it's more like an alien language. But I'm curious, like, so when you were in secondary school, did you always know that you wanted to become a maths teacher, or was there a moment where you kind of had to decide?
Yeah, there was a particular moment I had to decide, which
Mm,
was after the release of my DSE results.
okay.
Interests were actually staggeringly versatile. I am interested
Mm,
in a lot of different things.
yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
example, I am interested in global business.
Mm,
I'm also interested in teaching. Actually,
right.
we got a subject. It can be Chinese, it can be English, it can be economics, it can be
Yeah,
mathematics,
yeah.
anything. I'm just
Mm,
interested in teaching. I'm also
mm,
interested in marketing, particularly social media. I'm
mm.
interested in a lot of different things, but then um, because I can't really decide, I have too many interests. So I left it to my scores to decide. If
Okay, okay.
a really high score, then maybe global business. If
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, if not good enough, then maybe
Okay.
education.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 something like
Okay.
that.
But if I push you to think about it like this, like, so why maths teacher but not an English teacher, for example? It seems like you're quite interested in English or even Chinese, right?
Mm, mm, mm. Actually, when I got my results for the DSE,
Mm.
I was thinking, oh, should I choose English teacher or Chinese teacher?
Yeah, yeah.
And very interestingly, I thought that all English teachers had to speak in English 24/7, or maybe in the staff room.
So that
And
put
I
you off.
hate, yeah, that put me off. I hated the idea to speak in English for the entire day. I find
Right.
myself to be very reluctant in speaking English for the whole day. I think
Mm,
I would be very tired to do that.
mm.
And so I did not choose English language education.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, right? So that means that you knew that you kind of wanted to become a teacher or possibly a teacher, right? But in terms of which subject to teach, you were kind of open to it, but you kind of narrowed it down by what you didn't like doing as much. But how about Chinese then? Why not a Chinese teacher? I mean, if I keep pushing you to think.
Um, Actually, I was usually the best in Chinese, but
Yeah.
then my DSC, I kind of did not do so well in my
Okay.
Chinese
Okay. Fair
subjects,
enough.
not as
Mm,
well
mm.
as English or mathematics, so I can't
Sure.
really
Sure.
choose Chinese language education.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was left with mathematics education, and I was like, oh, maths, that's cool. So let's pick like that.
Or, I mean, I seem like I'm really picking on you right now, but why not, like, for example, teaching economics or business? Because you said you were also interested in business or economics, right?
So if I were to teach economics, I
Yeah.
had to first do a bachelor degree in economics and then
And then go
PGD.
into PGD. Yeah, true. So you,
Yeah, so it sounded like perhaps not so good compared to, doing a
okay,
bachelor degree in
fair
education.
enough.
So I can get into teaching right after I graduate.
Yeah, sure, sure. So now it's been 3 years since you made that decision, right? And actually, like I was thinking, oh wow, you're year three already. You're the one of the big brothers now in the department. How do you feel about your decision then? So was it? Do you think you made the right one? Any regrets?
That is a question I've been asking myself continuously
Mm, mm,
because
mm,
I find the mathematics in university very different from what I perceived back then
mm,
when I
mm, mm,
went
mm,
to
mm.
do this program. It's a lot more difficult than I could have imagined.
Mm,
And to me, sometimes it feels like an alien language too. So
mm, mm,
sometimes I'm questioning my ability to teach mathematics.
mm,
But a lot of my seniors, they keep on telling me, oh, it's normal to have these sort of hesitations
mm, mm,
because
mm,
mathematics is really difficult.
mm.
And they reassure me that I can do okay because I
Right.
think in terms of teaching, I can do all right. And
Yep.
I tend to focus on how I can make mathematics fun for the students.
Mm, mm,
Because for my
mm,
students, they maybe find mathematics very difficult to learn as well. So I
mm,
have
mm.
the experience on my own, my
Yep.
personal experience to, transform these very dull mathematics equations into something
Mm,
fun,
mm.
something that can be applied in daily life.
Yeah, sure, sure. Brilliant. And I think that's a great moment to ask you what topic you wanted to take a deep dive in. I wonder whether it's talk about making maths fun, or did you have other topics that you were thinking of talking about in a bit more detail?
I think I would like to talk more about leadership because it's
Oh,
been a
yeah.
big part of my secondary school life and also university life as well.
Yeah,
So
sure. Let's go.
leadership
Let's
has,
talk about it. Yeah.
Mhm. It has always
I guess.
been something. Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
After
No,
you.
I just wanted to kind of see the bigger picture, like kind of in at university so far. Have you taken on any leadership roles?
So in my first year of study in university,
Yeah.
I initiated the mock examination for DSE
Mm,
on behalf of
mm.
my program. I thought that it would be a very good initiative for
Mm.
student teachers to exhibit their talents
Yeah.
and question setting, as well as, obviously student teachers would like to know more about the abilities of our students.
Mm,
So I think it is a very good platform for us to have a more solid grasp and more
mm.
hands-on experience in question setting. So I initiated that program. And in my second year, this mock examination became face-to-face because during my first year it was,
Oh, it's COVID, wasn't it?
yeah, COVID.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
had to
yeah.
do it on Instagram as a giveaway. So second year I can finally do it on a face-to-face basis with,
Mm.
I think, 400 something candidates. They came to
Wow.
campus,
Wow.
yeah, for the examination. It was a very uh heavy workload, but I was so
Mm.
glad that I, pulled through.
Yeah, I can imagine because actually I was involved in the English one. So they were doing a similar thing for obviously for English exams. And then just thinking through all the logistics, like organizing 400 students onto campus and then getting their papers set and then to mark them, it's quite a task. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, do you think you've changed as a leader since secondary school? Because you did mention earlier that you felt, oh, maybe back in a time when you were the student union chairperson, obviously you didn't have a very good grasp of what leadership is. So yeah, have you? Do you think you've changed?
I think in secondary school, sometimes too young, too naive.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah, because as I said earlier, I was very outspoken in a lot of different issues. For example, my secondary school offers IB as well
mm,
as DSE.
mm,
And a lot of, classmates around me, they're very talented as well. They are top scorers in our grade. So obviously they would like to pursue further studies in IB curriculum, right? But I
mm,
don't like norms. I don't like to follow what people choose. So I chose
mm,
yes. And I was
mm.
like, somebody was asking me on Instagram, oh, would you choose IB or DSE? And I
Mm,
was like,
mm,
IB, it's a little bit too easy. I like to
mm.
do challenging. I
Right.
said that on Instagram, and it sparked a lot
Yep.
of, because obviously, a chairperson of the students' union, you would like to unify the whole school, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to separate, oh, IB students or DSE students. You want to bridge between them. And this is something that perhaps I have learned from this incident. Yeah, I think I
Mm,
just have to think more before I speak. That's very
mm.
important.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. Yeah, I think as you get older, you'll find it's more and more important to actually do that
Yes.
pause before you say anything that you might regret. I'm wondering about what you said just now. You don't like to follow the norm. Has that always been the case, like, or has it been a more recent thing where you started to realize, yeah, I really don't like the norm?
Um, I guess when I was younger, I did it unintentionally. I
Mm,
didn't realize that I was not following the norm. But as
mm,
I grow older, I feel like some norms they exist and I don't even know why they exist.
mm.
I don't think it makes sense. So I don't follow the norm deliberately as I grow
Right.
old. Yeah.
Do you have any siblings, older siblings?
I'm a single child.
Oh, I was going to use an educational psychology theory on you, but clearly it doesn't work. No. So, do you feel that it will continue to be the way you lead then? Like, obviously, when you don't follow the norm, people who are working with you might feel like, oh, isn't it safer to follow what other people have done? Or will do? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think yes, it is more dangerous to not follow the norm. Some
Mm,
people can get not quite comfortable
mm, mm,
with
mm,
not following the norms. And I think as a leader, it's very important to be persuasive. That is very
mm,
important. And I think
mm.
in order to be persuasive, you have to be charismatic in some sense.
Yep,
Like
yep.
people follow you for some sort of reasons. And actually, there is an experience that I can share. I
Mm.
was a leader in my group to South Africa for a social service learning trip.
Oh wow,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it is a very unforgettable experience because we get to, stay with the locals
Mm,
and distribute meals to the shacks. I'm not
mm,
sure if that's called the shacks, but yeah,
mm, mm,
the less, the affluent areas,
mm,
I guess,
mm, mm, mm,
in South Africa. So there was a lot for me to learn as an individual, particularly in terms of sympathy,
mm.
how we can step into the shoes of others. And
Yep.
I guess this sort of attribute is one of the ways that I can persuade others to
Mm,
follow
mm.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, sure. So far you've talked about not following the norms, being persuasive, being charismatic, and just now you mentioned also empathy as well, right? Any other qualities of leaders that you think, yeah, other qualities that leaders you should have, do you feel? A good leader.
Mhm. That is a very interesting question. Any other qualities? Um, I guess it's also very important to be critical
Mm,
sometimes.
mm, mm.
Um, yeah,
Critical
it
of
is
yourself or of others?
of yourself. Yeah. It's
Mm,
really important to know that, oh, sometimes I make mistakes
mm,
and I am there to confront to these mistakes
mm, mm,
and become a better person. I'm not there to be authoritative, like I made a mistake. Oh, I'm
mm.
just gonna no, it's not like that. I think it's very
Yeah.
important to let people know that you are humble and willing
Mm.
to become a better person.
Absolutely. I think being humble, like having that humility to admit mistakes is a really good quality to have. And earlier you also mentioned that you really like challenges as well, right? Is that something you also bring into your leadership? So kind of when you're leading a team, when there's an option between the easy option to do something safe and something more challenging, again, riskier, are you just more likely to take the challenge then?
Yes, I'm definitely more likely to take on the challenge.
Mm,
Uh, in South Africa, actually in Cape Town,
mm,
we were hiking up on Blue Mountain. It
okay.
is a very difficult hike and
Mm,
very hot as well.
mm,
We have a team of around, I think, 18 students, 18 of us.
mm.
And I was, encouraging everybody to really continue the
Yeah,
hike,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
though it is very difficult because I think it is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do like to take on challenges a lot.
Sure, sure. So you're not afraid of failure. So when you take on challenges, you're much more likely to fall flat on your face.
I think it's very important to not be afraid of failing or
Mm,
failure.
mm,
When I was young, I was very protective of myself. I didn't want
right.
to, fail in anything. But as I grow
Mm,
older, I think the more I fail, the more I grow up. And it's
mm,
the
mm.
and pain that helps nurture who I am today.
Sure. And obviously, I know you earlier mentioned that you feel like kind of leadership seems like something naturally born in you, right? So from when you were young, it seemed like something you're interested in doing, putting yourself forward. But obviously, as a teacher, I would love to try to get the part that has been nurtured because I mean, as I've taught you in the educational psychology course, it's always a balance between nature and nurture, right? Um,
Yes.
do you think along the way there was something that helped you develop even further as a leader, like particularly within the school setting?
Yes, definitely. I think my teachers in secondary school, they gave me a lot of freedom to do whatever I want, to
Mm,
try
mm, mm,
whatever I
mm,
want. And
mm,
I really appreciate that autonomy that they
mm,
have. given me because
Mm,
it has allowed me to explore a lot of different options,
mm,
especially options that were never tried in my secondary school in terms of maybe
mm.
activities I'd like to hold in my secondary school.
Yeah.
So I really respect that sort of freedom that they have given me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense because it feels like even when you are pushing against the not following norms, right? And taking on challenges, it seems like they were willing to trust you to do those things rather than saying, "Oh no, don't try it. We've never done it before," right? They were willing to trust you. I think that really speaks very highly of your teachers. How about your parents? Would I be correct to guess that your parents are also very trusting of you in making your own life decisions and things like that?
Yes, I think they are. Maybe
Yeah.
when I was young, quite, not quite
Mm.
when I was young, but as I
Okay.
grow older, I think they trust that I have the ability to make the correct decisions. And I
Yeah.
usually help them before I make any decisions.
And that's so important. I think trust, having that trust, I think makes you feel much more confident in continuing the journey forward, right? Great. That's a lot of things about leadership. Anything else that you think we missed out that you also want to talk about in terms of leadership?
I think the support is just very important, be it the
Mm,
support from teachers or the support from peers, as
mm,
long as they are confident in you. Because, I'm not always very confident in myself. But I'm very
mm.
glad that the people around me trust that I can do specific things. And
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
very important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. That's very, very, very true. Like that support system is so important. Right. Are you ready for some quick fire questions then?
Yes, sure.
So you earlier told me that you reviewed your report cards. So how did your
Yes.
teachers describe you back then?
Actually, it's here in
Oh
my portfolio,
wow.
and I can look for some sort of keywords that
Yeah,
I can
any,
share.
any words that kept coming back up again and again.
Yes. So some of the words that come again and again are trustworthy,
Mm, mm,
sincere,
mm,
and there's one that is very interesting from my Form 2's homeroom teacher. I like to read it
mm,
out. Park Hae is self-disciplined and well-mannered, dutiful and trustworthy. He is the role model as he is always willing to serve and ready to take up responsibilities. His
mm,
diligence and courtesy are highly appreciated by teachers and classmates. Park Hae is also endowed with good expressive power and creativity in writing. It is advised that he can keep up his effort and continue to strive for more outstanding academic performances. Because if I'm to tell you, oh, my teachers said something about me a few
mm,
years
mm,
ago, it doesn't sound so credible, right?
mm,
So I have to read it out
mm.
directly. So
Yeah,
they're
no,
really
no,
something
yeah.
like this.
And it seems like they could really see the leader in you already at that time, right? They could see like the leadership qualities within you.
Yes, and I was really moved by this homeroom teacher back then
Mm.
because she was able to see that I really enjoy writing. That
Okay,
is very
yeah, that's good.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, because um I'm a very shy person, to be honest. I'm
Mm,
not always very comfortable with
mm,
speaking in front of a lot of people, so I
right.
write. And I'm so
Mm.
glad that she can see that I can write, and she likes my writing a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
So she really appreciated that, right?
yeah, and I also really appreciate just how, she's able to really know more about me as a person.
Sure. Okay. How about what should schools or teachers do more of to help
I
students?
think I think it's very important for teachers to step into the shoes of students, show
Mm,
more sympathy,
mm,
less punishments.
mm,
Because I think even if a student they perform or behave badly, there must be some sort of reasons behind
mm,
this,
mm,
and it is very important for teachers to get to know the reasons or motives behind certain behaviors
mm.
in order to really, you know, uh, persuade these students.
How about doing less of? You kind of half answered it, but I mean, you mentioned less punishments, right? Anything other
Yeah, less
like less of?
punishment. Because based on my experience, I feel like a lot of my previous teachers can be pretty harsh on
Mm,
some of our classmates.
mm,
And I feel like it's not helping at all
mm,
because the more you punish them, the more you say, oh, you can't do something, they do more
mm.
of it.
That's so
So I
true.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think you can't always punish these
Mm,
students. You have to encourage them in a positive way.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And actually, I'm really impressed that you, as a young, like training teacher, you already understand this. Like, there are some teachers who have taught for many years who still don't understand this. Right. It seems like you have been, you are a really good learner because you did mention that you are quite good or really good at many different subjects, right? So I'm just curious, like, what tool or activity do you think helped you learn the best?
Surprisingly, I'm quite a conventional learner. I
Mm,
learn from textbook with a
yep.
pen and paper.
Right. Right.
Uh, when I was in secondary school, sometimes I feel like the more activities you want me to engage in, the less I
Mm.
learn because
Oh.
maybe
Mm,
they're not really related to the curriculum, and I can't find the
mm.
connection between the activities and my own personal learning
Yeah.
curve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that makes sense. So I think it's very important to make a connection between the activities
Mm, mm,
and the curriculum. As
mm.
long as students can see that sort of connection between them, they will engage more proactively, I think.
Sure, sure. Okay. Do you have any funny, strange, scary, or touching moments that happened in your school life?
Yeah, so when I was Form 4,
Mm,
I was pretty busy with my duties as a
yeah.
chairperson of the Students' Union, and I fell asleep in one of my favorite teacher
Oh
class.
no.
She was really nice.
Yeah.
She gave me a cup of coffee during recess.
Wow. Wow.
I like that teacher so much.
So
She is
I
very
mean,
inspiring.
it's exactly what you mentioned earlier, kind of showing that understanding, right? Kind of stepping in your shoes. So
Yes.
rather than shouting, actually knowing that, oh, there's probably a reason why you were so tired that you were sleeping in the lesson, right?
Yeah.
That's brilliant, right? Do you have a question for me? So if I've fired so many questions at you so far, so this is a chance for you to also ask me a question.
So I'm wondering, what is the turning point of you uh, pursuing your career in academia instead of as a secondary school teacher?
Ah,
Because
that's a
exploring many different possibilities in my career, so I'm really
yeah, yeah.
curious.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've had quite a few turning points, but specifically, if you say that kind of the transition from secondary school to like university, I would say that so I taught in my school for about 12 years, and I got to the point where I wouldn't say it was easy, but it wasn't challenging anymore. It wasn't that cognitively challenging. So I always felt that I wanted, similar to you, I wanted a challenge as well. I wanted to feel like I'm particularly cognitively challenged. I don't want to be challenged by like behavioral, like badly behaved students. It's more like being able to teach something that is beyond what I am capable of right now. I think that was one big motivation really of moving on to academia. Um, the other was actually the flexibility in time. So I don't, but like obviously at university, the time's a lot more flexible in terms of teaching. We're there for teaching, of course, we have meetings and stuff, but it's not like secondary school where, oh, you have to be there at 7:50 and then you can only leave school at like 4 o'clock, for example. So having my daughter being born around that time was also another consideration as well. But I do have a big bombshell to tell you, and I'm going to say this on my podcast because I think the recording is going to be we'll publish it probably closer to September. I'm actually moving back to secondary school teaching next year. So I've
Ooh,
been away from secondary school teaching for 3 years now, and so it's also similar to what I mentioned just now. Timing, like in terms of my daughter's situation, she's going to primary school, and so it's a good chance for me to go back into secondary school. But also, I'll be teaching a subject which I haven't taught before. So I'll be teaching business studies and economics. Yeah, so
wow.
so my degree was in business actually. So it's not like it's
Mhm.
completely new, but it'll be a different kind of challenge. But yeah, thank you for the question. And this is going to be a major bombshell as soon as this episode is live, right? Hopefully I need to time it right so it's not too early. Before everyone else. Yeah, right. Anyway, back to you. Just one last question would be: if you can change one thing about how you approach school, anything that you might change?
I think given the circumstances, I wouldn't change anything because I'm not the
Mm.
type of person that would regret all my choices.
Yeah. No,
So
fair
I
enough.
guess,
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess I wouldn't change anything. Um, Sometimes I reflect on whether or not I would have chosen IB or DSE again,
Mm. Mm, 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 mm.
because maybe it would have turned out better if I
Mm.
chose I. But
Yeah.
I think DSE has given me a lot in terms of
Mm.
perseverance,
Yeah.
diligence, all sorts of things like that. So I think I've grown as a better person, so no
Mm.
regrets.
No, that's brilliant. So you live with no regrets. Actually, I do have one last question. You kind of also touched on it earlier, but I wonder if there are any teachers that you remember particularly vividly. So you mentioned a few already. For good or bad reasons, I always remind the students that if they are bad reasons, you don't need to mention their names. If they're good reasons, please do mention their names. I'm sure they'll want to hear themselves.
So usually I remember all my teachers,
Yeah.
even dated back to primary one, I still remember them.
Mm, 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 mm.
Um, for the bad teachers, usually it's simply because I don't feel the passion.
Right.
But I get it sometimes because as you teach more, maybe sometimes you lose your passion. It's, it's quite common, I think. But
Mm,
there are a
mm,
lot
mm.
of good teachers who can maintain their passion
Yeah.
and be very inspirational in terms of their teaching or
Mm,
maybe their personal traits or charisma. That's
mhm,
very
mhm,
important too.
mm, mm,
So the teacher who gave me a cup of coffee, she
mm,
is really inspirational. She is
mm.
actually a volleyball player
Oh,
representing Hong Kong.
oh,
Yeah,
wow,
back then.
wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So she's very interested in physical education, but she
Mm,
did her education degree on Chinese language education.
yeah, yeah.
So she now teaches Chinese, but also at the same time, she is heavily involved in physical education work in her current school.
Mm, mm,
So I really respect her because she not only teaches, but she can also um, continue her passion
yeah,
in sports and make it shine even more in her current school. So I really
yeah, sure.
respect her. And there's
Yeah.
another teacher that I remember vividly, which is my homeroom teacher for Form 5 and Form 6.
Mm,
He is also my supervisor for the Students' Union. So I
mm,
respect him a lot because, yeah, he has given me a lot of freedom and room to do whatever I want. And
mm,
even
mm.
when I do happen to make mistakes, he is always available to consult me
Yeah, yeah,
and give me a
yeah.
lot of different advice. And that is pretty important because, as a student, you don't always know everything. And
Mm,
you need
mm.
somebody who is experienced to tell you that, oh, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine. Just continue to do what you want.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I respect him a lot. He's a very old person, so he's like a grandpa to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Arthur, and thank you for all your sharing. I really appreciate
for having
how you don't like following the norm. You enjoy challenges, but at the same time, you seem like a natural born leader, like you mentioned. But you really appreciate the support you've been given from your teachers, and all the trust that they've given you too. Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here. Thank you.
As teachers, how do we nurture young leaders who are persuasive and charismatic, critical yet humble, who don't just follow the norms and be safe, and those who are up for a challenge and not afraid of failure, just like Arthur? Well, it seems like for Arthur, the ingredients that his teachers gave him were support and trust. So he felt like he had the autonomy to explore the boundaries, to push the boundaries, and to learn as a leader. I hope you enjoyed listening to Arthur's extraordinary story, and please do join us again next time on Ordinary Teachers and Students.